Okay, good morning. So last session we discussed about yesterday we learned about how do we use various CSS selectors. We learned about the selectors. In that we discussed about the primary selectors. Primary selectors we are having primary or basic selectors, ID, type and class. And we learned about how we can use rational selectors. So we discussed about how to use attribute selectors. Next, after understanding these selectors, how to use them in attribute selectors, we learned about conditions, how to deal the conditions we learned. Next, another important, now we need to know about dynamic pseudo classes. We need to know about dynamic pseudo classes. How do we use dynamic pseudo classes? So yesterday we learned the different types of selectors based on attributes and values and all. Next, dynamic pseudo classes, why they are called like that? Actually, dynamic means dynamic allows to change according to state and situation. Dynamic allows to change according to state and situation. So according to the state and the situation, if it changes, generally styles when you apply, they will be showing the effects that you have applied. But if the styles are changing according to the situation, then we call them as dynamic. And pseudo refers to a name. Pseudo refers to a name that maps to different element. Pseudo refers to a name that maps to different element. That means pseudo means it's not exactly what it is speaking about. Its name is different. It works for some other. Then we call it as pseudo. For example, we have written A, and technically it is called as link or anchor. It is called as anchor, but actually it is a link. It creates a link. But with the name link, already we have a tag called link. This is confusion. That means when I say link, now sometimes confusion. Which link I am speaking about? Is it general hyperlink? Or is it linked to any CSS or any another file? So that is why they are called as pseudo. Pseudo means their name is different, but they will not apply to the name what they are speaking about. They will apply to some other element. So that is why they are referred as pseudo. Next, class. Class is a predefined template. Class is a predefined template. Class is a predefined template. that comprises of data and logic. Class is a predefined template that comprises of data and logic, which you can implement and use, without rewriting, It improves reusability. Later, when you learn JavaScript and all, you will learn more about these concepts called OOPS, object-oriented programming. There you will learn about more classes and all. Actually, class is a predefined template. That means it ready-made contains some functionality. Now, what you have to do is you implement the class and you use the functionality and change according to your requirement. For example, predefined templates means, suppose we have a software like MS Word. Now, in this MS Word software, I want to prepare a resume. Then you have a resume template. So you have a resume template. You can take a resume template. So I have a resume template, blue, gray resume. When I select a template, it will ask few details. And I just mention the details. Then automatically it creates a resume for me. So this is a template. Now what we have to do in this template, we need to replace the existing sample data and put our data. That means we don't need to design everything. We need to just replace what we need in the place of existing. This is the meaning of a template. And in CSS, such templates are present. What those templates will do is, you just apply them. They will take care about functionality. They are already defined with functionality. You don't need to write. For example, last session we saw, if I move the mouse onto mark you, it should stop. Then we return some functionality like on mouse over, some functionality. So without writing such functionality, automatically that functionality is written. You just apply it. Ready-made classes are provided. We have to apply them. So classes are implemented. Suppose heading have to implement a class. It should adapt all the features of the class. Then we have to use a symbol colon. So colon inherits. That means heading inherits. Heading inherits the features of a class. So you define a class name, automatically that class related features are inherited. That means whatever this class is already having, those are adapted by this heading. In addition to that, you can add some more functionality. You can customize. Already it is having some work. You can add some more functionality. Classes are implemented by any heading, anywhere you can give. It can be a heading, it can be an ID, so, and a colon, class name, or it can be a class, some effects, some class name. You can define for any ID type selector. So class comprises of predefined functionality and data that you can implement and use for your content. So that is why these are called as dynamic pseudo classes. So what are these dynamic pseudo classes available? Let's see. The dynamic pseudo classes, we have the dynamic pseudo classes like colon, link, and hover, and active, and visited. Some already we know, we used in various occasions. Already we discussed some of them. Link, hover, active, visited. These are some pseudo classes, dynamic pseudo classes. Several are there, I will tell you, we will categorize them. More categories we will divide. So link, hover, active, visited. So these already we know. Already we discussed when we learned about hyperlinks. So generally link defines, usually link defines effects. So it defines effects for hyperlink at normal state. Defines effects for hyperlink at normal state. Hover defines effects for any element, effects for any element when mouse is over. Means mouse is hover. That means the mouse pointer is over that element. Active, effects for hyperlink at active state. What is active state of hyperlink? Already you know. Active state of hyperlink is when I hold down the mouse button, then it is active state. Visited, effects for hyperlink when it is visited. It is visited. These are the dynamic pseudo classes. Already we know them. Already we used them. So we will see one more time here. Actually, when you are defining links, let's go here. I am writing some links. We will add some links here. So some ordered list or list item and anchor. Some home and href is equal to some home.html. And another list item, some href is equal to courses.html. So, and some set courses, something. This already we know. I will run this page. In the page we are using hyperlinks. Already we learned by default hyperlinks will have an underline. By default hyperlinks will have an underline, and by default hyperlinks will have some color. So default hyperlink color and default hyperlink appearance will be there. So that is at normal state. At normal state, hyperlink appears in that way. This is how they appear. And we want to change the appearance of hyperlink in normal state. In normal state, first one is not normal state. First one is visited. Already we learned in hyperlinks concept. So here we will go and we will write for anchor. we will apply a class colon called link. Link is a class. This link class indicates, it verifies whether that link state is normal state, visited state, or active state. It verifies automatically. And if it is normal state, then we want some effects to apply. What effect? I don't want underline. Then text decoration, we will set it to none. And if we want, we can change color as suppose some green. So you can see that changes the color. Underline will be changed and it will be affected. Link indicates that for every hyperlink, every hyperlink it will apply. Now if I want to apply for only visited, then we have to use visited. So if it is anchor is visited, then what effects you want? If it is visited, then I will put color as gray. Then you can see the color will be gray color. You can add more effects, like suppose text decoration. So we can say suppose line through. Later such effects we will learn, we will discuss. Line through, that means it is strikeout. But important here is few effects are not suitable for every element. That means situation I will tell you. Generally, I already told you while working with tables and other options, combinations will be there. If you miss the combinations and try to apply all effects, then it will not work. Just like I told you, you have a border and you have rules, both will not work. You have a BG color, we have a background, both will not work. That means some elements, combinations are important. Suppose we want to apply line through, we want to apply some border, shadows. They are not suitable for hyperlinks. I already told you that text shadow can be there, but hyperlink cannot have a shadows. Such effects which are not applicable to various elements, I will tell you when we learn about these effects. We will discuss about those effects, then we will discuss for which element they are suitable, those effects. That's also important. You cannot blindly put all the effects because the behavior of the element doesn't respond to that effect. So blindly you cannot apply all the effects depending on the element and what effect you are trying to apply. Right? Initially, two options are there. One is visited, another one is a link. Now when mouse pointer is over, I want to put underline for that. Then what you have to do, we can use anchor, we have hover. Hover indicates when mouse is over. Then we will put text decoration as what? Underline. Text decoration underline, because hyperlinks by default have underline. You can again add underline, right? I am selecting this now. On mouse over, underline will come. On mouse over, underline will display. And hover is for any element. Hover effects for any element. But link and active and visited are only for hyperlinks. Hover effects for any element. Any element means for any element. For example, suppose I given here an image. Source is from assets some shirt.jpg. Initially, I will give here at the top image. For image, width is 100 pixel and height is 100 pixel. Now image hover, That means when mouse pointer is over, when picture is there, mouse pointer is over the picture. Now width I will set to 300 pixel and height as 300 pixel. Now what happens is this image transforms into this size when mouse pointer is over. So when I move the mouse pointer onto the image, it will change the size like this. But very important is how much time it is taking to transform. When I move mouse pointer, just fraction of 1 millisecond. Within a millisecond, it is changing. But I want it to take some time. So then if you want any effect not to apply immediate, take some time, then you have to use an option called transition. Transition I will give as 2 seconds. Later you will learn about those transitions, animations. We will discuss this in animation concept. As of now, when you are using hover, means mouse over, you are asking to change, but how much time it will take to change? Immediate. So I don't want immediately change. I want it to change after 2 seconds. So that means not after 2 seconds, I want to change 2 seconds. The transformation time should be 2 seconds. Now from transformation, when I move mouse pointer outside, again what is happening? When I move mouse pointer outside, again it is coming back to this state. It is again coming back to 100 state. How much time it should take? So suppose it should take same transition as 2 seconds, or you can keep longer. So that means first effect lengthy, second effect short, your wish, your timing, you can give anything. So here you have to define in milliseconds and seconds, right? So now you see when I move the mouse pointer onto it, then the effect will be slow. When I move the mouse outside it, then it will be again normal. Obviously when it is changing the effect, so now don't think that some animation is happening to hyperlinks, because the hyperlinks are adjusted bottom, right? That is because its height increases, it is coming down. So hover is an effect which you can use for any element, but link and active and visited are used only for hyperlinks. So here for hyperlinks, we have link, we have visited, we have hover, and we can also use link active. When link is active, color I give as red. Then how the link comes to active state? Link comes to active state when we move the mouse pointer onto it and hold down the mouse button, means click, then link becomes active. That is the active state. In active state, which effect to apply? That you have to manage by using this visited. Right. So we have these options: link, hover, active, and visited. Examples already given in the classroom. I uploaded in notes. In that, examples are already there. So related to all these: link, hover, visited, how you can apply effects. Later we will use in various other examples also. These are the dynamic pseudo classes. Next important is another important category. Just syntax I will give here. Suppose image, so width is 100 pixel, some height as 100 pixel, and text transition transition is 2 seconds. Next, image hover. On image hover, we can change it. Some width I given as 200 pixel and height and the transition 2 seconds. So how we can define hover? Similarly others. These transitions we will see later. Detailing how the transitions are handled and used while learning about animation, we will see that. So these are dynamic pseudo classes. Next important, we have dynamic element state pseudo classes. Dynamic element state pseudo classes. We have dynamic element state pseudo classes. So now here, these are also same. Dynamic means they will change. Pseudo and classes. What is element state? What is element state and how this element state works? Element state, already we learned that HTML elements have different states like enabled, disabled, read only. So this comes under the category of element state. Element can have various states, like it can be enabled, it can be disabled, and it can be read only. It can get focus. Focus is also an element state. Focus, and if it is losing the focus, then it is called blur. So according to the element state, we can apply some effects. What is problem here is, for example, so if element have a different state, sometimes it is difficult to identify it. For example, I given register user and we have a data list with data term, some user name, and we have text input type is equal to text, and it is having a value, so some John, and actually we can do some modification into it. That is default value coming, and if you want, you can change that value. You can change the value. If I don't want that value to be changed, then I can give an option read only. If I give read only, that is read only state. In read only state, nothing changed. Visually it looks same as previous. That means until or unless I click inside and start typing, I am not sure whether it is editable or not. I don't know. There is no visual sign for that. That means I am trying to type something, it's not working. That means even you given read only, it looks like normal. Until or unless we go into it and start typing, we are not sure whether it is read only or editable, read write. So that is the reason, if it is read only, give a different appearance so that user can easily identify that it is read only. So that you can manage by using the element state selectors. Disabled, okay, good. For example, if I give disabled, it is good. Yeah. If I give disabled, that is good. That means disabled you can see instead of read only disabled. Then if I give disabled, you can see disabled looks little different. That's fine. So little different. So that is okay. But read only and this is not easily understandable. But disabled also, I want to make it better. So in that case, depending on these states, you can change its behavior. You can change its behavior. So what you can do is, you can use the effects based on the element state. So here, element state refers to, element state refers to enabled, disabled, read only, checked. Checked is the state for checkboxes, and focus. Element state refers to enabled, disabled, read only, checked, and focus. So element state refers to these options. And we have classes, same classes we are having. So colon enabled defines effects when enabled. Disabled effects on disabled state. Read only effects on read only. Checked effects when checked. Already I showed you checked when we learned about checkbox. Focus when element gets focus. That is focus. These are dynamic element state pseudo classes. Enabled, disabled, read only, checked, focus, and all this. For example, see here how we can apply. Right. You can easily try them. Suppose I given read only. Now it looks normal. So simply what we can do is, we can put here how to access this text box. Yesterday we learned attribute selector. We can use attribute selector, but that is lengthy. Then I will give an ID as username. Now I am writing that here, hash username. If username is read only, then what effect you want to apply? I want to set background color as gray. So that is fine. That means if it is read only, background color will be gray. You can change border, you can change text color. So you can apply some effects to that element when read only. If I removed that read only from that text box, then automatically it will be normal, so that I can do some modification into it. If it is read only given, it will change. Actually, I am changing this in the code now. In future, we don't do that in code. We do that with JavaScript. That means what we do is, while user is entering some details in a registration form, if he entered some wrong details, then others we lock and disable. If he enters correct details, then we enable. So that means these read-only, disabled, enabled, currently I am removing and adding and showing you, but they will change dynamically according to situation. That means later in programming, we will apply them. Through programming, we will apply read-only according to situation. In that case, it should change its behavior. So it should change its appearance. That we can do by using this option, read-only. So read-only indicates if it is read-only state, what effects to apply. Disabled, enabled are normal. For example, we have a button. So the button is registered. For button, we are giving button if it is enabled. If button, by default it is enabled. If button is enabled, some background color. Background color I am giving, suppose some green. Okay. Color say white. And I will give cursor. Cursor means mouse pointer. Mouse pointer, I will give grab. Grab is hand symbol. Grab contains hand symbol. Okay. If button is disabled, then I will change background color as some red, color as white, and cursor as not allowed. Not allowed is a cursor. Actually, various mouse pointers will be there. We use various mouse pointers depending on the situation requirement. So various mouse pointers will be there. So you know, different mouse pointers have different approach. Like sometimes you can see the mouse pointer will be like this. So mouse pointer will be like this. That is normal select. Sometimes mouse pointer will be like this. This is working background. Working background. That means some work is going on in the background. Please wait. Sometimes the mouse pointer will be like this. This indicates busy. That means a very lengthy work is going on. Please wait more time. And sometimes mouse pointer comes like this. This indicates you can move or resize. We can move or resize. Sometimes mouse pointer comes like this. This indicates ready for selection of text. Selection of text. This mouse pointer comes. This indicates not available. These are all reasonable mouse pointers. Actually, many people while using mobile or while using computer systems, they come with a complaint, right? So they say that this mobile is not working properly. It is hanging up. Mobile is hanging up. A person who complains on mobile or who complains on these laptops that it is hanging up, he is the biggest fool in the world. That means he is a technical fool. That means why a mobile hangs up? Why a laptop hangs up? The first reason is you don't know how to operate it. That's why it hangs up. What? You are complaining on Samsung, where millions of developers, years of time and hundreds of quality testing has been done and released a Samsung mobile, and you are complaining that it is hanging up. They will laugh at your knowledge. But you have to bear. Some people write reviews, na? They say it is hanging up very frequently. Are you serious? That means why it will hang up? Because it is having 2 GB RAM. You loaded 500 games in it. What will happen? What will happen? It will hang up. That is your problem. That means that is the reason legally you can't claim on them. If a device you purchased it 20,000, that means you have legal rights to claim on it if it is not working properly according to court laws. But you can't, because they will show you reverse, they will claim on you. They say that, so this person don't know how to operate a mobile and he is complaining on us. Because the problem is in you majority of times. Because you see, many people don't know the meaning of these mouse pointers, right? I have seen people when computer is loading, I have seen so many times people, it is loading and they are right clicking on desktop and selecting refresh. Right click refresh, right click refresh. What you are doing? Accelerating. You are delaying the task. Already it is loading. It knows how to load. If you interrupt it, it will delay it. That means this pointer indicates, please wait for a few seconds. This pointer indicates, please wait for a few minutes. If you don't wait and still do some work, then it will hang up. That means your problem, you don't know how to handle it. These are very common sense basics of using electronic devices. So without that knowledge, people start using devices, then they have to face a lot of issues. So that is the reason these pointers for a developer, lot of meaning is there. And we have to show them to the clients so that they will not complain on us. That means we have to say that this is not allowed currently, please wait. It is loading, please wait. We have to show on internet, these type of people will be more in number. They don't know about internet and they start using internet. They use everything on internet and first complaint they will give, it is very slow. That is the first complaint everybody gives. It is very slow. Even if he don't know about it, the first complaint, it is slow. That's the reason we will not take everything on us. We will use these symbols and icons properly. So for example, now when I do this, you see now, this is button. And when mouse pointer is over, it shows hand symbol. Hand symbol. What is the meaning of hand symbol? Hand symbol indicates that one click is enough to open. Arrow symbol indicates that double click to open. That means while links contain a hand symbol, it says that one click enough to open. Usually in order to open, you need a double click. On an icon, you have to double click. But if you get a hand symbol, that indicates that you don't need double click. You need a single click. That is the meaning. Right? The point here now, when I make it disabled, this button is currently enabled. I make it disabled. When it is disabled, its appearance changes. And you see its icon also changed. Now you can see its icon. It shows that not available. It shows that not available. I will change the color little light red. Okay, so that you can see it. You can see it will be not available. The cursor not available. By seeing that, they can understand that, okay, I can't click it now. Right? That is the meaning of every cursor. And web developers specially have to depend on these cursors to tell the status. That's very important. So we have different states. Enabled state, disabled state, read-only state. Another important, focus and checked. Focus and checked states. Let's see. First, a simple syntax for this. Suppose we have a button enabled. I will just give only one effect. So the effect is cursor, just what we newly learnt here. The cursor we will say as grab, and button is disabled here. Then we will say cursor not allowed, like this. Enabled, disabled. And if any element, some username, read only, then we have to define some effect. So background color as some gray, something like this. So this is the basic enabled, disabled, and read only. Read only. Now we have another option, that is checked and focus. Checked already I told you. Checked already we learnt when we learnt about checkbox. Accept terms, red color, green color. Remember that? So when we learnt about checkbox, we discussed about that option. Suppose we have a field set, so legend, terms and conditions, and here suppose I given input type is equal to checkbox. And this checkbox here, terms of service, like this. Suppose this checkbox have an ID called terms, and beside it we have a span I accept. I accept. This already we learned. So this is, if checkbox is not checked, I want this red color. I want that red color. Already we done that. You remember this hash terms. I want to apply effects to the span which is present beside the terms, adjacent to terms. Then we have to use first, if terms is checked, right? If terms is checked, the span beside it, that means plus span. Now you know the meaning of plus. Plus is adjacent selector. Yesterday we learned that it is adjacent selector, and the adjacent span will be applied with color as green if it is checked. If it is not checked, that means in default state terms, the adjacent span color must be red. If not checked, it should be red. That is checked property. This is in red color now. When we select the checkbox, its state is checked. Then checked state, it will be green color. And I remove, then it will be in red color. Based on checked state, we can apply the effects and we can display. Effects can be applied depending on the element state. That is why this is called element state. So checked is a state. And that example already I given you with checkbox. With checkbox already we discussed that in forms concept, and already I given in the forms example also in classroom. Now another option is focus. Focus is nothing but, for example, suppose here we are defining some name as so register user, and here I am defining data term username, and data definition input type is equal to text. Now here this have a placeholder as name in block letters. Okay, that is just placeholder defined here. It looks like this. Let's clean up this one. Okay, now you can see this is the text box we are having, and when I click inside, that means it gets focus. After getting focus, I am typing something inside it. But while typing, now currently it is in focus. But while typing, that placeholder is gone. That placeholder is gone if it is having some value inside it. Then what happens is, while typing, the placeholder is gone, the tip is missing. Then sometimes we are confused in the middle now. While typing in the middle, I confused about what is the rule. Because the rule is displayed only when there is no value inside it. If there is no value inside, then only that rule is displayed, name in block letters. Once you started typing something inside it, that is gone. But what I want is, until it is in focus means until cursor is inside it, I want to show that alert to that person that here only block letters. Then what we can do here, suppose I am adding a span. This ID I will give as username. Username is the ID. And beside that, I will put another span. And here I will say name in block letters only. The same message I am giving here also. In the span, I am displaying the same message. You see, the same message comes. But until or unless it gets focus, I don't want this message to display. When it gets focus, then only that message should display. So I can hide this message. So what we have to do is hash username plus span. That means the span beside it. Display as none. That means don't display. That means by default, that message is not displayed. That message is not displayed. When to display the message? When user clicks inside the text box. That means now when username gets focus, then the adjacent span must display inline. Inline means side by side. You can display block. Block means it will display below. So we will display inline. Later we are going to learn inline, block, flex. Already we learned flex. Differences, display styles will be there. Inline, it will keep side by side. Okay, now you see here, currently it is not displayed, and when I click inside it, it will display. And until I am typing the name, it will be there. Once I finish typing, click outside, then it is gone. And again click inside, that means it gets focus and it will display. And I lose the focus, then it will be hidden. That is focus. Focus is not only applying for span. Focus, you can apply effects for the text box also. That means, for example, the text box also should highlight. That means it should show some red color border. If it is valid, red color, invalid, green color, like that. valid, invalid, we will see in the next point. Here initially we can apply for text box. Currently we are applying for span. So what we will do is, if it is focus, then we will apply like this, hash username. If it is just focus, if username is focus, then border we will put as 2 pixel solid, and I will keep as red. That means what happens when it gets focus, it will be red. We can keep effect for it. We can keep the effect for it. So you can use some box shadow 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 3 pixel red. I'm giving box shadow. Already we learned box shadow, text shadow, how to apply. It will apply that and it will display. We can define effect for the text box or for the element beside it. Not only text box, any element, when it gets focus, we can apply some effects to it. So, and it loses the focus, it is normal. When it gets the focus, it will have that effects, right? That is generally defined with the focus. That is another example for focus. Just here we have username, and if it is focus, the span beside it will be displaying inline like this. And if not, so then span beside it will display none. That means we have a text box, input type text, ID as username, and we have a span beside it. That is focus on checked state, how we can change the appearance. So that is ID, class, and adjacent combination we are using at the top. Username is an ID, to that we are applying a class focus, and we are not applying effect directly to it. We are applying effect to the span adjacent to that focus. Username text box, right? That is element. These are all element state pseudo selectors. Next important, we have dynamic element validation state pseudo classes. Element validation state pseudo classes. Generally, elements have some validation states. The general states, enable, disabled, read only, focus, this comes under general states. We have validation states. Validation states already we learnt in HTML forms. In HTML forms, what are the validations we are having? Required is a validation, pattern is a validation, email is a validation, right? And min length, max length are validations, minimum, maximum are validations. Already we learned them. So dynamic validation based effects we can apply. Some effects are related to validation state. Validation state, like we have, see, validation state of element refers to, validation state of element refers to required, optional, valid, invalid, required, optional, valid, invalid, in range, out of range, etc. In range, out of range, etc. This comes under the validation state, how we can deal with the validation state. So we have the classes like required, like optional, like valid, invalid, in range, out of range. All these are the classes based on the validation state. Those names will tell what they are actually. For mandatory fields, for optional fields, effects for optional fields. If all validation attributes are valid, if any one validation attribute is invalid, in range, if value is within specified numeric range, if value is out of specified numeric range. These are the options. Right. So how these are used, how they work, let's see. Required, optional, valid, invalid, in range, out of range. For that, we know already text box related behaviors. For example, for this text box, this is the text box, and I'm giving required attribute. I'm giving required attribute. So I'm giving required attribute. But very important is, how do they know that it is required? You have to keep in a form, and when form is submitted, at that time it will verify the value is there or not, and it will show a message. We have seen that in designing the forms. We learned about that. So before that, we have to display, and before he enters anything, so submits the form, before he interacts, we should show him the message. So currently it is not showing anything there. Then what we can do is, we can put here hash username if it is required. If it is required, then what should happen? So then we can put some color for this. That means border as 2 pixel, solid, and red color. and say box shadow 2 pixel, 2 pixel, 3 pixel, red color. Like this we are applying. If it is required, then it will be this. We can display some red color. We can put some message. How to put the message we already saw. We have a span, and here we will say name required. Name required, and I will display that. So name required. Of course, for that name required also, we can display only when it is required. That means what we have to do, hash username. So span, it should display as none. And if username is required, then span, so display should be inline. Suppose I given display as block, that will come next line. Next line. That means you see here it says name required. But very important, observe here. It is required. But when I start typing some value into it, I start typing some value into it. So when we start typing the value into it, it should disappear. But it's not happening. It's not happening. Why? Because required indicates that if there is required attribute mentioned, then what effect to display. If required is satisfied, what to apply? We haven't written for that. If required is satisfied, that means what? If required is satisfied means username is valid. That means now username have a state called, username will have a state called valid. Valid indicates that required is satisfied. If it is valid, then what should happen? Suppose I written like this, span display as none. Now you see here, we are typing some name inside it, Now it is fine. That means required is valid. If required is not valid, then it will show the message, the name required. And it is valid, then it will be displaying, hiding that message. You can show it in red color also. That means here the span display block and span color is red. That means it will be in red color. It will be in red color. So now I am typing some name inside it. Now it is fine. I am not typing, then it is removed. Then it is displayed. This is very important. In future, we have to handle the validations in this way. Actually, earlier, we have to do this with a lot of JavaScript. Now, very recently, the latest CSS is trying to eliminate maximum JavaScript usage in browsers. That is the future roadmap for CSS. Bootstrap CSS, their future roadmap is to remove maximum usage of JavaScript client side. So handle with lot of Bootstrap and CSS. Why? Because in future releases, already Bootstrap has initiated it. In the latest version, I will tell you, they prepared a road plan, and they already intimated that developers that in future you forget about jQuery, JavaScript. So in CSS, we are going to eliminate it. That means try with everything with CSS, because problem is JavaScript, jQuery, when you write validations with them, JavaScript, jQuery, so can be disabled on browser. A browser can disable JavaScript. If browser disables JavaScript, whatever validations you written, they will not work. That is the common issue that we face. So even today, the same problem. If browser is enabled with JavaScript, then only validations will work client side. If disabled, client side validations will not work. Now the latest technique is to handle that with the help of CSS only. That is the reason even JavaScript is disabled. See, currently we are using edge :/ settings. If you are using Chrome, you can go to Chrome settings, edge settings. Here I search for JavaScript. I search for JavaScript. When I search for JavaScript, so JavaScript settings will come here. You can see JavaScript, and currently JavaScript is allowed. So I will disable it. I disabled JavaScript. After disabling JavaScript, once refresh this. So, and you are typing something, it's still working. But earlier, not only earlier, even today, several websites, not several, almost all websites are using JavaScript only currently. So now in future, people are asked to do everything with the CSS much. So still you will see 100 to 100% validations in JavaScript jQuery only. Then if you disable JavaScript, those validations will not work. That is risky. Then you have to tell the client that please enable JavaScript on your browser. So that I will show you in JavaScript how to handle. Now it doesn't matter. Why? Because even you don't use JavaScript, these validations are working. Even your browser is blocking JavaScript, these validations are working. Earlier, to handle validations, you need mandatory JavaScript, and JavaScript must be enabled. Now you can manage that with the modern CSS. Modern CSS have the ability to handle such validations without using much scripting and without need of enabling scripting. This is one example for that. So see here, required, why I written valid? Because required, satisfied or not, that is verified by using valid and invalid. If required is satisfied, means it is valid. If required is not satisfied, that means it is invalid. So if you write only required, I am not writing valid. You see what happens now? This message will come. This message will display. And I remove required. I remove required from here. If I remove required from there, so then it will be normal. But required is not like this. Required is dynamic. Dynamic means we will verify whether user is typing a value inside it or not. In that case, we should write required. We don't remove required. We should write required, and we should verify required satisfied or not. So for that, we need to do two works. One is required written or not. If required written, what should happen? That message should display. Okay, how to verify required satisfied or not? To verify required satisfied or not, we have to use valid. Valid indicates that required satisfied. When required satisfied, now you can hide the block. This is a combination actually, If required is not there, then we generally call as username. So username have optional. Optional indicates if required not written. If required not written, then I will put border as 2 pixels, solid, some gold, something like this. Gold like this I define. This is for optional. So similarly, box shadow, 2 pixel and 3 pixels, some gold, that is like shadow. Now you can see this is currently required. If I remove required, that means it is optional. When it is optional, then it becomes like this. That means if required is written, then it will have one effect. If required not written, then another effect. If required satisfied, then it is considered as valid. So here we have to write required. And when required is written, it will display this message in this way. This is a combination. Individually, we can use valid, invalid also. I will show you that in range, out range, valid, invalid, how to use. First syntax for this will be like this. So we are writing, so username required. If username is required, then we have to define border as 2 pixel solid red. You can give shadow, anything else. If username is required, then span beside it should be display as some block and color as red, like this. If username is valid, then span beside it should display as none. That's it. So we write input type is equal to text, ID is equal to username, and required. We are using required. We are using required. So that is required. For other validations, for required is this. Optional also there, na? Roughly write that also. That means username, if it is optional. If it is optional, then we given border as 2 pixel solid gold, like this. If it is not mandatory. These are the options. Then there are so many other validations like email validation, URL validation, min length validation, max length validation, number min and max validations. For those validations, we have different types of selectors to use and work with them. That we'll see tomorrow. We will discuss in the next session, right? Tomorrow, 2 topics are there. We will finish. The one is validation, structural selectors are there. That is, after learning structural selectors, CSS selectors are finished. Then we will learn about CSS colors, CSS related units, and CSS effects now. How to write borders, backgrounds, shadings. These all effects detail we will learn now. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we'll continue, right? Yeah.